Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. I'm standing outside the Nanning number 8 hospital. See, I've had a lot of experience with medical issues here in China from different members of the family and myself, actually. This is the new hospital. This was built about 4 or 5 years ago. In 2011, there's a small hospital area over on the corner there that used to be the hospital for this area of China, or this area of Nanning. Okay, I know that one really good because that's where Wei Feng's mother passed away. What they did is she came to this number 8 hospital when it was the old hospital, and she went through a bunch of tests. In the summer of 2010, Wei Feng and I had her parents come over to Canada to visit for 3 months, July, August, and September of 2010. Okay, well, she was coughing and coughing and coughing, a dry cough. So I said, well, like, there's something got to be wrong there. So, and they went back in September. We came back here in November, and she was still coughing. So we said, okay, well, why don't we take her to the hospital and get her checked out? Okay, so we did. And we brought her to the number 8 hospital, not this one, the one the old one from before. And you've got to understand that not all hospitals are the same here in China. You've got to pick and choose, and we'll get into that in a bit. All right, so we come over and they do all of their tests, and she has water on her lungs, so they have to drain that. And they said, well, we think she's got tuberculosis. And I'm thinking, oh great, somebody in the house with an active tuberculosis case. That can't be good. Yeah, so, but I don't know, it just didn't seem right. So what we did is we went over to the university hospital. It's the best hospital in Nanning, and you've got some really good doctors. And we put her in there for a couple of days, and they did all the checks on her, and it actually came back lung cancer. That was in early December of 2010, and on November 11th, get this, in 2011, on November 11th, at 11 o'clock at night, she passed away. Okay, well, you know, so that goes to show that it all depends on which hospital you go to. Another one here. Okay, so 5-6 years ago, I at the gym, I get bursitis in my elbows and they swell up like little balloons, and this has happened to me before. So I come here, and the old doctor that treated Wei Feng's mother with her cancer, sort of like a family friend, but old-time doctor. I go in there and I say, hey, my elbows are, look at this. And he says, put lighter fluid on it, light it on fire, and then pat it out with your hand, and that'll fix it. I said, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I looked around for a different, I wanted a second opinion. See, that's just it in China. Sometimes these doctors are quacks, like literally quacks. So I looked around and I found a doctor on I think the 9th floor, and by that time they'd already built this puppy on the 9th floor. And he spoke English, so I said, well, this is my situation. He says, well, what we should do is we should give you an injection of lidocaine, and or before that, he says, let's drain that puppy. So he sticks a needle in and it drains it, and he says, we'll give you a shot of lidocaine and some cortisone, and just lay off doing things for a couple, 2-3 days, and you'll be fine. It's all based on the doctor that you get here in China. There is no malpractice suits. There, you know, in Canada, if somebody said light your elbow on fire and pat it out, nobody would take that person seriously, and there'd probably be a malpractice suit coming down the tube real quick. See, another thing. When Wei Feng, she had, as everybody knows, she has lumps in her breast, or had lumps in her breast, and we went to the number 1 hospital downtown, which is supposed to be pretty good. Oh, yeah, okay, we'll go with this story first, then we'll get back to another story about me. so we go to the doctor, and he does ultrasounds and whatever, and he says, don't worry about it, it's just a cyst full of water. Okay, so I don't know, 5-6 months later, we go back and we see a different doctor, same hospital, #1 hospital. Should have went to the university hospital. Those guys are spot on. But we go through the same thing, and the doctor says, yeah, well, maybe you should have them removed, but he says they're probably nothing. Have them removed, but they're probably nothing. A little light bulb went off in my head, and I said, oh, we're going back to Canada. Why? Because the Canadian health system is one of the best in the world, and it's free. Because I'm a Canadian citizen and Wei Feng is a Canadian citizen, we have paid our taxes, and we deserve all of the benefits that Canada can supply us. Yes, and that's free healthcare for things like this. So we went into the Nanaimo hospital, and they did an ultrasound, and they wouldn't let her leave the hospital until they do a biopsy on these things. 20 days later, she was in surgery. A month after that, she was in chemo for, geez, I can't even remember now. It was a long time. Let's say 6 months. And then a month after the chemo was done, she was into radiation. They put her through and it didn't cost us a penny. And now she's on tamoxifen for 5 years, an after cancer drug, and that's free too. Okay, so like another thing that I was through, like I ripped my shoulder all to rat shit here about 3 years ago. I couldn't put my arm behind my back. I was in pain all the time. So I go over to the university hospital, and they say, "Oh, let's go into physiotherapy." Actually, the physiotherapist that was working on my shoulder, electrical therapy, stretching, and all of the stuff that you do in physio, and they were excellent. She did a bang-up job. So it's starting to get better. I've been going for a while, and I figure, well, that's all the way across town. It takes me like a half an hour on my e-bike to get over to the university hospital. So I decide I'm coming to the #8 hospital, this one here, because it's all brand new now, and it's like tickety-boo. They've got to be, and so the physiotherapy costs exactly the same as in the university hospital, which is top notch. But what do? They don't put me in physiotherapy. They lay me on a bed and put a wooden box with some burning coal or incense inside the box and lay me down and stick that on my shoulder. And I'm thinking, well, this is a waste of money. This isn't gonna work. And it didn't. A couple of days later, I was back at the university hospital doing the physiotherapy over there. But it just goes to show that there's really no continuity in the Chinese healthcare system. They've got to do a lot more. Maybe this isn't a pro-China video this time, but it's reality, and it comes from my experience in dealing with the healthcare system here in China. There's no continuity with the quality of the doctors. Some doctors are bang on, excellent characters and know their shit inside out and backwards, and some of them are just quacks. The less professional, or the higher the number of like #8 hospital is not as good as #1 hospital, but the university hospital, and I can only speak about Nanning, the university hospital is a really good hospital. I'm sure rural hospitals in places like Bobai or Shibu or whatever are probably even worse, but well, I would guarantee you that they would even be worse. But I'm sure that the hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai are world-class hospitals, just like in the West. So I guess the further you get off the beaten path, the worse the healthcare gets in a place like China. And Nanning has basically been a very poor province up till just lately. It's getting a lot better. Places like Nanning are thriving. Another strange thing about the healthcare here in China, and I know this may be just in the rural areas or the off the beaten path, like the Nanning cities. Only 7 million people here, guys. Yeah, that's a considered a fairly small city in China. When Wei Fang's dad went into the hospital because he was sick, he's old and he got a bad cold and he was pretty sick. The nurses don't take care of you. If you want somebody to fluff your pillow, a family member has to come. If you want food, family members have to bring you food when you're in the hospital. Change your clothes, things like that. There are ladies that sort of live in the hospital and take care of these older people or sick people. They don't have to be old. And the family pays them a certain number of dollars a day, and they'll go down to the cafeteria, because they do have a cafeteria. They'll go down to the cafeteria, and this lady here is probably one of those ladies that helps. This guy looks like he's had a stroke, and the family doesn't have the time to walk around with him, go to the cafeteria, cook him food, help him to the bathroom, things like that. So that's one of the things that I noticed the most when the old boy was in the hospital, that there was just really not that support in the hospitals for the patients. Because I know in Canada, they cater to your every need. They say, I want some Jello. They'll bring you some Jello. They might gripe about it, and just think, and so Wei Fang, we actually do use the healthcare system here for a number of things. She just had her 6-month checkup. Every 6 months after cancer, she's supposed to have a checkup, blood tests, CT scan, ultrasound, the whole 9 yards. So she went in there. She got into the University Hospital, and the number was already at 204, and she was 608 to get her blood taken. It only took about 45 minutes for her number to come up. So they went through like 400 people. You know how it is getting your blood taken in Canada or the United States. You sit there, there's 6 people in there. An hour later, it's your turn. Not here, boy. They streamline that shit like crazy. But you notice there's not a lot of people at this hospital because the people don't trust this hospital. The Chinese people know what's a good place to go and what's a bad place to go. This is good for caring for the old, but if you really want to know if you want to trust the doctor that's going to tell you what's going on, you go to the University Hospital. Even the number 1 hospital is better than the number 8 hospital in Nanning. So after Wei Fang had her blood test done, and you got a little card, and an hour or so after the blood test, you just go over to a machine, swipe your card, and your blood test comes out on, hers was on like 3 different pieces of paper. It's in Chinese, but I've got a Google Translator on my phone, so I could read it. Okay, so then she goes for a CT scan, and she goes, and then it's onto these, it goes onto the computer, and she just hits the card, and it comes out on she gets a printout of that too. So you don't have to go see the doctor to get your printout. You want to go see the doctor after you get all of the stuff. And her x-ray, or not the x-ray, the ultrasound, same thing. They do the ultrasound, an hour later you go over to the machine and you get that too. 731 RMB for an ultrasound, and that's the whole meal deal. CT scan, whole meal deal, and the blood tests, whole meal deal. And it costs 731 RMB, which is, in Canadian dollars, maybe $140. Yeah. So it's inexpensive, and that's at the University Hospital. But you see, if you did it at the number 8 hospital, it would be exactly the same cost. They don't charge any more from hospital to hospital. And you see, that's what I find really strange, because and you go over to the University Hospital, and there is no place to put your bike, no place to put a car. There's people everywhere. Why? Because the quality of care in that hospital dwarfs the quality of care in a hospital like this. Sure, it's nice, it's big, it's new, but it's going to take a while before the Chinese system catches up to the infrastructure, the quality of the doctors. Like the new doctors, the younger doctors are so much better, so much more well trained than the old boys. But they still practice both Eastern and Western medicine in all of the hospitals here in Nanning City. Not so much in the university hospital as in the number 8 hospital, but a lot of the Chinese people that are more rural, and I'm in a more rural area. I'm only like 5 blocks away from home here. The rural Chinese people, or the semi-rural Chinese people, a lot of them want the Eastern medicine, not the Western medicine. They say, well, the Western medicine is a quick fix, but to fix the underlying problem, you need Eastern medicine. It may take longer for it to fix why that problem arose, but the Western medicine won't do that. Only Eastern medicine will do that. So, there's a conflicting type of understanding on the medicine practices here in China by the Chinese people. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the bell, and don't forget to check your subscribe button. As always, people are getting unsubscribed, and they tell me on my comment section all the time. And these aren't people on VPNs. These are people from the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia that don't use VPNs, so we can't say it's the VPN users. Anyway, oh, and never forget, our children Patreon account is at $754 a month right now, and growing, and I'm happy about that. We're at 37% of our goal. It's only been like a month and a half since we started, so I guess that's pretty good. When you see cards come up, help the children, support the children, or make me proud, click on that card, and it'll take you directly to the Patreon account. Put a couple bucks on the Patreon account. It's for the kids, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye now.